It always to welcome a new players and newcomers and players who will own the future, I would say. So it's great yet to welcome Alexander here in Lind in this special year, and it's also it's time to that we play on clay. We know how the crowds are when plays wherever she plays in the world. If going to win this one she needs to be patient, reckon it might be a little bit of a struggle. Grabher playing at home and also with that experience on clay I think might get a reset, but I think Eala is going to win in 3 in the end and get to that second round and take on Senko in the imagine you've spent years grinding through the junior circuit, sacrificing weekends, holidays and a normal life just to reach the professional stage. You've represented your country with everything you have, you've built a fan base in your hometown, and now, finally you get the moment every tennis player quietly dreams about, a first-round match on home soil. The crowd is supposed to be yours. The energy is supposed to fuel you. The roars are supposed to carry you through the tough moments when your legs feel heavy and your nerves start creeping in. That is exactly what Julia Grabher was expecting when she found out she'd be playing in Austria. And then reality hit her like a serve she never saw coming. Because what is actually happening in that tournament right now is so unexpected, so completely backwards from what anyone could have predicted that even seasoned tennis journalists are struggling to fully explain it. 90% of the tickets for Grabher's first-round match were sold out almost the moment they went on sale. 90% gone just like that. And here is the part that changes everything. The vast majority of those tickets were not bought by Austrian fans coming to cheer on their home player. They were bought by fans of Alex, a 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines who has somehow, in the span of just a few months, turned the entire tennis world upside down. Grabher is going to walk onto that court in her own country, in her own city, surrounded by her own people, and she is going to feel like the visitor. She is going to hear the loudest cheers going to the other side of the net. And she is going to have to find a way to compete at the highest level while all of that is happening around her. Let that sink in for a second. That is not a small thing. That is not something you can just shake off and ignore. The psychological weight of that situation is enormous. And it tells you everything you need to know about the kind of force that Alex has become in this sport. Now, to really understand why this is such a big deal, you have to understand what home advantage actually means in tennis. Unlike team sports where the crowd is always packed and always loud, tennis is a quieter, more intimate game. The crowd is closer to the action. Every cheer lands differently. Every gasp echoes through the stadium. When a crowd is behind you, it genuinely lifts your game. Your feet feel lighter. You find that extra gear when you're down a break. You fight harder because you can feel thousands of people willing you forward. Players talk about it all the time. The difference between playing in front of a supportive crowd and an indifferent one is massive. Now imagine flipping that completely. Imagine those thousands of people willing your opponent forward instead of you. Imagine hearing that roar every time she hits a winner, every time she holds a game, every time she fights back from behind. That is the mountain Grabher is now being asked to climb, and it is steep. But let's talk about Alex herself for a minute, because none of this makes sense without understanding who she is and what she has done to deserve this kind of devotion. She didn't arrive on the tour with a massive marketing campaign behind her. She didn't come from a rich tennis family with powerful connections. She came from the Philippines, a country that doesn't have a long history of producing elite professional tennis players. And she started winning. Not just winning, competing at a level that made people stop and stare. Earlier this year at Indian Wells, she made her debut and the tennis world genuinely did not know what to make of what it was seeing. The demand for tickets to her matches was so extraordinary that prices shot up to levels that no one had seen before at that tournament for a first-time player. The numbers that came out of Indian Wells were staggering. $5 million in ticket sales from a single match. One match. That figure spread across every tennis publication, every sports network, every corner of social media within hours. And suddenly, everyone had the same question. Who is this girl and where did she come from? Tournament organizers at Indian Wells were caught off guard. They hadn't prepared for the kind of crowd that descended on the venue when Alex played, and they scrambled to adjust. That experience gave birth to a phrase that you'll hear constantly now across the tennis world. The Alex effect. It's a real thing. It's not hype or media exaggeration. It is a measurable documented phenomenon that plays out every single time she steps onto a court somewhere in the world. Ticket prices go up. Stadiums fill faster. Media attention multiplies. The atmosphere inside the venue transforms into something that feels less like a tennis match and more like a concert where the entire crowd is emotionally invested in one person. And here is what makes it even more remarkable. Her fan base is not just large. It is organized. These are not casual supporters who show up once and drift away. They coordinate. They plan. They travel. They buy tickets in bulk for tournaments happening months in advance. They show up in numbers that overwhelm venues and catch tournament directors completely off guard time and time again. In Austria, they did it again. And the tournament director, Sandra Eala, who has been running the Ladies' Lindt Open for 35 years, made absolutely no attempt to hide how she felt about it. 35 years, that is a long time to be running a tennis tournament. You've seen a lot of players come through. You've seen exciting matches and quiet ones. You've seen big names and rising stars. And after all of that, Eala came out publicly and said that what Alex brings to this tournament is something she has never experienced before in all those years. She praised her not just as a tennis player, but as a global phenomenon. She confirmed that Alex would be put on the biggest court available. She said the atmosphere surrounding her match would be unlike anything this tournament has seen in its entire history. And she went one step further. She announced that she herself would personally welcome Alex to the tournament. Think about what that means. A tournament director personally welcoming a player who is not even seated at the top, not a former champion, not a veteran of the sport, because her presence alone transforms the entire event. That kind of public statement from someone who has run a tournament for 3.5 decades carries a lot of weight. It tells you that what is happening around Alex is not a trend. It is not a moment. It is a genuine shift in how this sport operates and who commands its attention. And standing in the middle of all of this is Julia Grabher, watching it unfold in real time in her own backyard. Every headline that week was about Alex. Every interview was about Alex. The buzz in the streets of Lindt, the conversations in the cafes near the tournament venue, the social media chatter surrounding the event, all of it centered on one player, and it wasn't the Austrian. Grabher has spent years giving everything she has to this sport. She has represented Austria with real pride. She has competed at the highest level and earned her place on the tour through hard work and sacrifice. And in the week where she was supposed to be celebrated at home, she became a supporting character in someone else's story. That is genuinely difficult to process no matter how mentally tough you are. But here's the thing. What Alex is doing goes far beyond optics and atmospheres and ticket sales. On the court, she has been outstanding. She has beaten players that the tennis world deeply respects and done it in a way that suggests she is only getting started. One result that really turned heads was her win over Coco Gauff, one of the biggest names in the women's game right now. Gauff is a proven champion, a player who has been competing at the elite level for years and who knows how to handle pressure in the biggest moments. The fact that Alex went toe-to-toe with her and came out on top was a statement. It told the tour that this is not just a feel-good story. This is a legitimate competitor who can beat anyone on any given day. And that combination, the electric fan support plus the genuine on-court results, is what makes the Alex effect so powerful and so sustainable. It's not built on hype alone. It's built on winning, and that makes all the difference. Jessica Pegula found that out the hard way at the Miami Open. Pegula is one of the most experienced and battle-tested players on the WTA Tour. She has played in front of massive crowds her entire career. She has competed in Grand Slams, in big finals, in matches with enormous stakes. She is not someone who rattles easily. So, when she described what it felt like to play against Alex, the words she used were striking. She called the crowd energy insane. She said no matter where Alex plays, whether it's a Grand Slam or a smaller tour event, the atmosphere reaches a level that most players simply never experience across their entire careers. She talked about the fans not just watching the match, but living inside every single point, reacting to every rally, every winner, every moment on the court with a collective passion that is almost overwhelming. To be on the wrong side of Pegula said this from personal experience. She played against Alex in Miami and described feeling like the entire crowd was against her, even though she was playing at a tournament she knows well in a city she is connected to. She even recalled being able to hear the crowd noise from her hotel room late at night during Alex's matches from her hotel room. That is not normal. That is not what tennis atmospheres typically sound like. That detail alone tells you everything about the scale of what is happening. So, when you put all of this together, the $5 million in ticket sales from one match, the 90% ticket buyout in Austria by traveling fans, the tournament director personally stepping forward to welcome her, the testimony of a top 10 player describing the atmosphere as unlike anything she's encountered, you start to see the full picture. Alex is not just a good young tennis player with a passionate following, which is a phenomenon that is actively reshaping how tournaments think about scheduling, court assignments, ticketing, and the entire experience of running a professional event. The sport hasn't seen this kind of concentrated fan devotion around a single player in a very long time, and arguably has never seen it emerge this quickly at this stage of a player's career from a country without a deep professional tennis tradition. And that is what makes what's happening in Austria so compelling to watch, because on one side of the net you have a player who represents everything that is familiar and comfortable about professional tennis. A European player playing at home with the full backing of tradition and expectation behind her. And on the other side you have something the sport has genuinely never encountered before. A movement, a wave of genuine, organized, passionate global support that travels across borders and transforms venues and makes Austrian fans feel like visitors in their own stadium. Grabher is one of the most mentally resilient players on the tour. Nobody gets to the professional level without that resilience. She has fought through tough matches, difficult moments, and setbacks that the public never fully sees. But what she is walking into in Linz is a different kind of challenge. One that has nothing to do with her backhand or her serve percentage or her physical conditioning. It is a psychological challenge that very few players in the history of this sport have ever had to face on home soil. Can she block out the roars going to the other side of the net? Can she find a way to feed off the pressure rather than crumble under it? Can she give Austrian fans enough moments to rally around and turn the atmosphere even slightly in her direction? Those are real questions, and the answers are genuinely unpredictable because upsets happen. Momentum shifts, crowds can swing, and sometimes the player fighting against the wave finds something extra deep inside them precisely because they have no other choice. This match is bigger than a first-round result in Linz. It is a window into something the tennis world is still trying to fully understand. What does it mean when a player's fan base becomes so powerful that it can effectively reverse home advantage anywhere in the world? What does it mean for the sport when a 20-year-old from the Philippines can walk into a tournament in Austria and be treated like the headlining act at a festival? And what does it mean for the players who find themselves on the other side of that, standing in their own backyard, trying to remember why they fell in love with this game in the first place? The Alex effect is real. It is growing, and right now it is pointed directly at Julia Grabher. Austria came to this tournament expecting a home crowd moment. What it got instead was something far bigger and far more complicated and honestly far more fascinating to watch unfold.